everyone treats Tiresias like a tragedy, the blind prophet cursed by the gods doomed to wander. But that's not actually what he was. He'd been a man, a woman, blind, gifted, mortal across 7 generations, and every god in the pantheon kept asking him questions. He wasn't the victim of the story. He was the only person in it who knew what was happening. The story starts on a mountain, Mount Cithaeron in most tellings, though some sources say Helicon, and it's hard to say which tradition is older. Tiresias is walking. He comes across 2 snakes mating in the path. He strikes them with his staff, and he becomes a woman, not metaphorically, not in a dream. He wakes up a woman and lives that way for 7 years. Then, 7 years later, he's walking again, finds the same situation, 2 snakes, same road, same moment, strikes them again and becomes a man. That's the whole mechanism. 2 encounters with the same scene, 7 years apart, and somehow that's what the universe used to flip him back and forth. Nobody explains why striking mating snakes causes a sex change. It's just presented as a fact of the world. Greek mythology does that constantly, by the way. It'll give you a deeply strange premise and then move on as if you've caught up. Here's where the gods get involved, and it gets strange fast. Zeus and Hera are having an argument, which, if you know anything about their marriage, is basically a permanent condition, and the argument is about sex. Specifically, about who gets more pleasure from it, men or women. This is a real dispute in Ovid's Metamorphoses, Book 3, and Ovid plays it with complete seriousness. They need a referee. The only candidate is Tiresias because he's the only person alive who's actually been both. He gives his answer without hesitating. Women, he says, 9 times more. Hera is furious. Apparently, this was not the answer she wanted. Or perhaps it was a secret she didn't want confirmed, and she blinds him on the spot. Zeus can't undo what another god has done, but he compensates Tiresias with the gift of prophecy and 7 human lifetimes to live in. The maths here is interesting if you let it sit. Hera punished him for telling the truth about pleasure. Zeus rewarded him with the ability to see every truth that hadn't happened yet. He lost his eyes and gained something considerably stranger. After that, Tiresias settles in Thebes, and he doesn't leave. He's there for 7 full generations, which in Greek mythological time means he's present for essentially every catastrophe the city produces, and Thebes produces more catastrophes per century than almost anywhere else in the ancient world. He's advising when Cadmus founds the city and sows dragon's teeth into the ground to grow soldiers. He's there when Oedipus arrives and Thebes is under plague. He's consulted during the War of the 7 against Thebes, when a coalition of armies comes to tear the city apart. He's still there for Creon and Antigone, when the whole thing collapses into an argument about a body left unburied and whether civic law or divine law takes precedence. He watches all of it. He knows how all of it ends before it starts. And here's my favorite detail about the Theban period. There's a tradition, recorded in a handful of Scholius notes, that Tiresias had a daughter, Monto, who was herself a prophetess. A blind father and a seeing daughter, both reading the same future from different angles. The mythology doesn't make much of it. It probably should. The Oedipus encounter is where you see the whole Tiresias situation most clearly. Oedipus is king of Thebes. The city is suffering under a plague. Oedipus, who is, whatever his flaws, genuinely trying to help his people, summons Tiresias and asks him what's causing it. Tiresias tells him. He says, "You are the cause. You killed your father. You married your mother. The plague is the city's reaction to what you've done." Oedipus's response is to accuse Tiresias of being a fraud, a liar, probably in the pay of Creon, who's trying to steal the throne. He calls him practically useless as a prophet. Couldn't even solve the Sphinx's riddle, could he? Had to wait for Oedipus to do that. This exchange is in Sophocles' Oedipus Rex, and the dramatic irony is so thick you can feel it pressing on you as you read it. Tiresias doesn't argue. He doesn't try harder. He says what's true, gets called a liar, and leaves. Every single thing he said was correct. You already know how the rest of that story ends. So did he, the whole time, standing there being called a fraud by the man whose destruction he just accurately described. By the time Odysseus reaches the Underworld in Book 11 of the Odyssey, Tiresias has been dead for a while. But Circe, who sends Odysseus down there, is specific about one thing. Tiresias is different from every other shade Odysseus will encounter. Everyone else in the Underworld has lost their mind. They don't know where they are, they don't remember who they were. They're just impressions of people running on instinct and residual emotion. Tiresias still has his reason. The gods, Persephone specifically, let him keep it. Even in death, even stripped of everything, he's still the only one who knows what's happening. Odysseus gets there, performs the ritual, waits. Tiresias arrives and immediately tells him everything he needs to know. The dangers ahead, the cattle of the sun god he absolutely shouldn't touch, the suitors waiting at home, how to get back, what to do after. Straightforward, complete, accurate. Odysseus, to his credit, actually listens this time, though it's kind of worth noting that he still manages to let his crew eat the cattle anyway. Tiresias told him not to. It happened anyway. Some patterns don't break. Step back from the individual stories for a second, because there's something in the overall shape of Tiresias' existence that doesn't get discussed enough. He spent his entire life, 7 of them, technically, telling people exactly what was going to happen. Not in riddles, not in vague, oracular language. He was usually pretty direct, and not once in any story that survives does it change anything. Oedipus doesn't believe him and walks into exactly the fate Tiresias described. The Theban generals don't believe him and lose the wars he said they'd lose. Creon doesn't believe him until Antigone is already dead and the damage is done. You'd think that after a few generations, someone in Thebes might have noticed that when Tiresias speaks, it comes true and adjusted their behavior accordingly. But that's not how people work, apparently, not in myth, and not anywhere else either. The gods gave him the fullest possible understanding of human experience, male, female, sighted, blind, mortal across centuries. They gave him complete foreknowledge. And then they placed him in a world where the people around him were structurally incapable of using what he knew. That wasn't a mistake, that was the design. If you want more stories like this, the weird details, the parts nobody tells you, hit subscribe. Like the video if it landed, and share it with someone who'd find it interesting. More coming soon.